If one thinks or interprets that Arhants attain complete liberation only after death, whether by believing Arhants are not reborn after death or Arhants are freed from all suffering only upon death, then how is this different from the non-Buddhist religions that preach liberation after death? Other beliefs explain eternal happiness or liberation from all suffering only after death, but the Buddha consistently taught liberation attainable here and now while alive. When an arhant has eradicated all defilements, consciousness no longer clings to form. According to dependent origination, with the cessation of consciousness, mind and form, the six sense bases contact, feeling, craving, tanha, clinging, upadana, becoming, bhava, and birth, jati, all cease. Though the Arhant's five aggregates, Panchakhanda, persist due to remaining life force, Ayu, no new birth occurs, since there is no fuel for rebirth. If there is no birth, how can there be death? Arhants are deathless. Nibbana is of two types. Saupadisesa Nibbana, Nibbana with residue of form. Though all defilements are destroyed, the five aggregates persist due to remaining life force. Though an Arhant experiences no mental suffering, physical sensations like pain from disease, heat or cold may still arise. Thus, there is still a residue, upadisesa, of existence. However, no such existence of a person who senses such pains. Anupadisesa nibbana, nibbana without residue. At the end of life, when the life faculty ceases, the aggregates dissolve completely, including material elements, skandhas. This is called parinibbana, the illusion of consciousness, vijnanamaya, extinguished, same as the non-existence of the flame of an extinguished lamp. Friends, remember this well. Consciousness descending into the womb forms the embryo, from which the eye, ear, tongue, and other sense bases develop. Before this, the truth of impermanence, suffering, and non-self, anicca, dukkha, anatta, was not realized due to ignorance, avijja. Once the senses develop, they inevitably encounter their objects. The eye meets forms, seeing arises. The ear meets sounds, hearing arises. But it is not the eye that sees nor the ear that hears. It is consciousness, vijnana, that perceives. If consciousness clings to these sense impressions, through craving, rebirth occurs. This is the root of the problem. All that is seen, heard or known arises due to conditions. When conditions cease, hetun paṭicca sambhutam, hetu bhanga nirujjati, they vanish without a trace. But ignorance, avijja, makes consciousness fabricate a reality, constructing concepts like my daughter, my son, my house, myself, leading to clinging, upadana. This is the great delusion. We create our own world of attachments. To see this truth with wisdom, panya, is not easy. Why? Because for countless lifetimes, we've trained in wrong seeing and hearing. A scattered mind, viksipta chitta, can never realize right view, sammaditthi. But when one directly sees the truth, without distortion, they grow disenchanted with form, feeling, perception, formations, and consciousness. Disenchanted, they are liberated, and they know liberated. The Buddha's path is about freedom here and now, not an imagined liberation after death. The Arhant's release is not annihilation, but the end of delusion. In the Madhupindika Sutta, the Buddha explains how consciousness becomes entangled with form, creating the illusion of a world. Dependent on the I and forms, I consciousness arises. The meeting of these three is contact. From contact as a condition comes feeling. What one feels, one perceives. What one perceives, one thinks about. What one thinks about, one proliferates conceptually. Based on this mental proliferation, the ordinary person becomes assailed by concepts of identity in relation to past, present, and future forms known through the I. The process unfolded. When the eye encounters a visible form, visual consciousness arises. These three coming together constitute contact. From this contact emerges feeling, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. What is felt is then perceived and labeled. What is perceived becomes the object of thought. And what is thought about becomes elaborated into complex mental constructs. This is where the problem begins. The untrained mind, instead of seeing this as a mere flow of impersonal processes, begins constructing a self around these experiences. I see this is mine, this is me, this is myself. The simple act of seeing becomes the foundation for craving, clinging, and suffering. The process of the rest of the senses is exactly as above. As this profound concept in Buddhist teachings requires deep understanding, as its implications profoundly affect our daily lives. The uninstructed worldling refers to ordinary people who have not encountered noble beings, are untrained in the noble Dhamma and lack association with the virtuous. Uninstructed worldling, having not seen the noble ones, unskilled in the noble Dhamma, takes this natural process of sensory contact and spins it into a web of self-delusion. The eye cannot help but see forms, nor can consciousness help but arise when conditions are present. These are natural phenomena operating according to cosmic laws, but where we go wrong is in our mental proliferation papancha that transforms bare experience into personal drama. A simple visual form becomes my beautiful sight or my unpleasant view. The neutral process of hearing becomes my favorite song or that annoying noise. In this way, we take what is essentially a flow of conditioned phenomena and create a solid world of me and mine. The Buddha's teaching doesn't ask us to stop seeing or hearing. The eye will still see and the ear will still hear, but wisdom allows us to witness this process without adding the layers of self-identification. When contact occurs, let it be just contact. When a feeling arises, let it be just a feeling. When perception labels, let it be just perception. The key is to stop at perception without spinning off into mental elaboration, to see the entire process as it truly is impermanent, unsatisfactory, and not self. This is how the chain of dependent origination is broken. This is how what was once a source of bondage becomes the very path to Nibbana. Every moment presents us with a choice. Will we take this sensory contact and weave it into our story of self? Or will we see it as non-self process? One path leads deeper into samsāra, the other to its cessation. The difference lies not in what we experience, but in how we relate to that experience. This is the profound truth the Buddha revealed, that liberation comes not from changing what arises, but from changing our relationship to what arises. When seeing is just seeing, hearing just hearing, and knowing just knowing, the whole mass of suffering comes to an end. Let us continue the dialogue. Venerable Sariputta then asked, Friend Yamaka, when in this very life no being or person can be found truly, firmly, and reliably, is it proper for you to declare, as I understand the Dhamma taught by the Buddha, an Arhant ceases to exist after death and is not reborn? This question by Venerable Sariputta is profound. It cuts to the heart of impermanence, anicca, suffering, dukkha, and non-self, anatta. Here lies the key for all who seek liberation from suffering. Understanding this, the monk Yamaka made this confession. Venerable Sariputta, previously, due to my lack of wisdom, I held that wrong view. But having heard this Dhamma discourse from you, my evil view, Sakkaya Ditti, has been abandoned. I have now truly understood the Dhamma. Venerable Sariputta then asked, Friend Yamaka, if someone were to ask you what happens to an arhat after death, how would you answer? Yamaka replied, Sir, if asked, I would say form is impermanent. What is impermanent is suffering. What is suffering ceases, it disappears. Feeling is impermanent. Perception is impermanent. Mental formations are impermanent. Consciousness is impermanent. What is impermanent is suffering. What is suffering ceases, it disappears. Thus, if asked about an arhat after death, I would answer in this way. Sariputta said, Very well, Yamaka, and told the simile of the assassin parable. Although Yamaka's answer is not wrong, to further clarify, Venerable Sariputta gave this analogy. Suppose there is a wealthy householder with great riches and guards. A man seeking his harm thinks, This man is rich and well guarded. Killing him will not be easy. I must gain his trust first. So he approaches, offering service. The householder employs him, and the man serves diligently, rising early, retiring late, doing whatever is asked, and speaking kindly. Eventually, the householder trusts him completely, considering him a friend. Then, when the time is right, the assassin strikes. Sariputta asked, Friend Yamaka, was this man always an assassin? Yamaka, yes, Venerable. Sariputta, but did the householder know it? Yamaka, no, Venerable. Sariputta, similarly, the uninstructed worldling, unfamiliar with noble teachings, mistakes form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness for self. This is mine, this I am, this is myself. Clinging thus, he is bound to suffering. But the noble disciple sees rightly. Form is impermanent, suffering, and non-self. Feeling is impermanent, suffering, and non-self. Perception is impermanent, suffering, and non-self. Mental formations are impermanent, suffering, and non-self. Consciousness is impermanent, suffering, and non-self. He does not cling thinking this is mine. Thus the five aggregates, no longer clung to, bring him ease and happiness. Yamaka, now fully comprehending, declared, Venerable Sariputta, those compassionate teachers who instruct out of kindness, such as yourself, are truly rare. Hearing this discourse, my mind is freed from clinging and taints. With a joyful heart, Yamaka accepted Venerable Sariputta's teaching. Thus, wisdom arose in him, the knowledge and realization within no being or person can be found. This is the ultimate truth. Therefore, dear friends, the Arhant's state after death cannot be described as exists or does not exist. Such concepts do not apply where no self is found. The uninstructed cling to the aggregates as self, while the noble disciple sees their true nature. Right understanding, samadhi, dismantles the illusion of self, leading to liberation. This discourse reveals the Buddha's middle way beyond externalism and annihilation, pointing to the cessation of suffering through wisdom.